Hey there, I'm Helper Wesley, the creator of Asteroid Dig, Atomic Trail, In-N-Out Night Burglar, a jam game, and now Asteroid Dig Mobile, my first commercial release. Let's get started. So this devlog is mostly going to be about adding new artwork, a few mechanics, and talking about the potential story of what this game's going to be. And if I sound a little bit funny, it's because I have a cold, and I was too stubborn to not do this. I committed to once a week, so I'm going to do this once a week. Even though editing this recording is going to be a giant pain because I'm going to have to try to edit out all the snorting and sniffling. So I started with the second main mechanic of the game, which is the train task selection screen, where you micromanage the other character that's in the game and set them to different tasks, like crafting objects or driving the train or fueling the furnace, and so on. Basically, the idea is that you'll only be able to do this while you're in contact with the train, so you have to come back to the train to tell the other character to go do a different task. So I did this pretty simply. I set up some points on this screen, and you drag the character's outline, which I made a transparent version of the character, over to the next objective, and when the outline touches the new objective, it zips the base version to that new task, and then whatever task the base version is sitting at, that's the task that's being performed. When you let go of the mouse button, the outline goes back to where the base is. That's how that works. It's pretty simple and straightforward. I like to keep things simple. Next, I started drawing the new character. The new version of the main character, sorry. Talking with my Discord, I threw the suggestion out there and they all thought it was great. Or at least, above average. They're all pretty harsh critics. I threw the idea out there of the characters in the game being a mother and her two children. So the mother is the one going out, collecting resources and bringing them back to the train, while the older of the two sons is the one that's in the train performing the tasks. And the objective of the whole game is to get the mother and their two children to the father who's at a different station further down the line. So I intend on having the character that moves around in the train to just be the oldest son, and then have the younger son be maybe on all fours crawling along the bottom of the train. So you'll see the youngest son kind of wandering around the train, and the other one is performing tasks. I set up the mother's animations pretty simply. It is just a run, jump, falling, and then an idle animation. And then they're mirrored to go the opposite direction in the events of the game. I decided to draw a new train because obviously the old one was pretty garbage. I basically just looked up examples online of sprite trains and then not exactly copied, but more or less copied and pasted it over and then tweaked it to add things to make it fit in more with my art style. I wanted the task menu to be displayed as the inside of the train, and this would be the only thing in the game with color. For reasons I don't know, I just decided that would be the case. After adding the new train into the scene, I wanted to change the collisions to make it so that the character would interact with it better. I felt the scaling was off before, so now the train's taller, which means the character can't just stand on top of the train and go along the track the way it was before. I tried with this, but eventually gave up. I was trying to make it so that each section of the train would have different collisions, but for some reason it just didn't seem to work, so I just gave up on that for later. So now that I had this character in the game, I felt that there had to be some more functionality to it. I had thoughts of adding tools in the game, but since that went out the window earlier on, I was trying to think of a way to make searching more proactive, and so I decided to give the character a torch that they would carry around, and that would be the light source rather than the light just coming out from the character. That just didn't seem to make much sense, honestly. It was just this ambient light radiating from the character. So it looks much better now in my opinion. The torch makes a lot more sense. Once I had the torch done and I realized that I was getting into more intricate art pieces, I decided to bite the bullet and get a color palette. I, again, still don't know what I'm doing with art, so I just scrolled through this website that you can see on screen now, the URL, probably. lowspec.com. That was it. I just scrolled down and found one that kind of, sort of felt like it would fit in my game. I didn't need too many colors, so I picked something with a limited color palette in hopes that would make picking for the art just easier. Since the darkest color in this palette wasn't black, I decided to go into GIMP and shift up the blackness of the color palette until the color of the darkest color in the palette turned black. If that was a good idea, I don't know. But it meant that all of the colors were the same color, just shifted down a little bit into the blackness. So armed with this new color palette, I went back into the train scene and applied this color palette to any section of the train that would have light. I wanted to continue having that look that if things aren't in the light, they don't exist, or at least you can't see them. So anything that was in the train that was within the light beams coming down from the top of the train, those exist and you can see them, and each one of those are stations that the oldest son can now be parked at to get them to do that task. I decided I didn't like the aura coming from the train either, so I changed the light source to be coming from the front of the train, and I think in the future I might redo this again and have it so that the light is coming directly from the light coming from the train, if that makes sense. So just like the torch carried by the mother, the train, its main light will be the thing that gives all the ambient light, so it'll just be a ray of light from the train, and then larger copies of that fading off into the darkness, and that will be the only ambient light on the train. So that way, you can't see the back of the train unless your character is there to light it up with a torch. Speaking of which, I added in being able to raise and lower the torch, so that way you could better investigate the higher and lower sections of the level. I've been using it mostly in my playtesting to better hit the ghosts. So you can lower the torch to get the ghosts that are down in the lower level below you. Right now it's a pretty minimal range, but I think I might increase that. But it's kind of satisfying to jump up and then reach down with the torch and smack a ghost. Obviously when I go to add some more effects and some more juice to the game, that it'll have a better feel to it. Now that I had the new color palette, I had to go back and redo all the old artwork that I had done previously. So the UI had to be all redone. And because of the limited palette I chose, I decided to go for the blue outline, which a lot of people in my Discord have told me that it kind of looks like how an ability in a game would look after you've activated it. So if you have like a skill in a game, normally it would have like a brown outline or a black outline, then when you click it, it's blue because it's then activated. So it's kind of a weird color to use, but at the same time, everything else in the palette is just not much better. So I don't know what I'm going to do with that yet. I might change that again. Constantly switching color palettes is a pain in the butt though. So I don't know what I'm going to do with that. I don't know. Hopefully I can make it work when everything else gets added to the game. We'll see. I then changed all of the level walls, floors, and covers to black outlines with holes in them to make them look like steel beams. I did this so that way anything that's not in the light of the torch or the train or eventually the ghosts themselves is just not visible. And this will make it so that you have to look around and you don't just immediately know what the level looks like. This will also make you have to remember what path you use to get up, so that way you have to carefully decide where you're going to jump up and down, or else you'll get caught by the moving stage and not be able to get back down to the train with the resource that you picked up. I had originally used one of my sprites from my old game Atomic Trail for the sun in the train, so I decided to remake that obviously. I ended up making them look kind of like just a short person, a short adult male, which obviously isn't great, but for now it's okay, I guess. I then created an ethereal blue version of that character outline, so that way when you grab it in the train scene and drag it to the next task, you have this like blue select kind of transparent outline. I'm describing it poorly, but hopefully you're seeing it on screen right now and it makes sense. So talking to my Discord, we had decided on the tasks in the game and what they were going to be. Basically, by the time everything's said and done, there's going to be 5 tasks. Navigation, which will increase the speed of the train and therefore increase how fast the scene itself is moving. So you'll want to put them on navigation when you want to get through the game faster. Refuel, which will bring the heat of the furnace back up and basically restore the health bar of the furnace. This will consume coal and only work whenever time ticks. Next is a cooking station. I wanted to have a hunger mechanic in the game because I felt like it was appropriate in this style of game. It's a post-apocalyptic game, so food and keeping your characters alive is kind of important. Beyond that, there's the rest task. There's 2 spots for this in the train right now. Putting your character there will mean they're not doing anything for that tick on the clock. but it will mean that their stress levels go down. So for the characters, they're going to have a hunger and a stress meter, and then the train is going to have the furnace level. And I think those will be the only meters in the game that you're going to have to try to monitor. And then the last task is a bomb crafting station that will give you access to bombs so you can blow up walls and floors and things to get to resources that you wouldn't otherwise be able to get to. Then, of course, I had to add a destination for where you were going. Prior to this, when you reach 0 miles on the counter, the game would just fade to black and you'd pop up in the hub city, or the thank you screen in the demo. So instead I created a station sprite that appears when you hit 0 miles. And so that when the train hits this station, that's when the fade applies, and that's when you move to the next stage. The hub station right now is empty. I plan on adding randomized NPCs and scene objects, and then there will be 2 shops in each hub station, one for upgrading the train and one for buying and trading resources. And those 2 shops will stay in the same place each time, but the layout of the hub station will look different every time you go in, and it will have access to different bits of story. So that way you do get this kind of randomized feel to it. So it feels like a new hub station every time you go there, which means you'll feel like you're progressing to a new place. So that's it. This week I basically only got artwork done with like a few tweaks on mechanics. Next week I'm planning on getting more mechanics in, sound, music, and adding some juice to the game. Can you tell that I did this devlog at night? I kind of feel like I'm whispering into the microphone. There's nothing worse than waking up a toddler. If you like this video, consider doing all the YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe, those things. I plan on releasing a devlog every Friday about what I'm working on seriously. And then if I have extra content, I will release a video on Wednesday for whatever that's about. If you want to talk to me personally, the link to my Discord is down below. And if you choose to click on that, then I guess I'll see you there.